Hi everyone, I'm Denise Marek, and this is Life by Design. If the job you're in once made you jump for joy, but now kind of makes you feel like you want to jump out the window, well, our in-studio guest has some strategies to help you rekindle your enthusiasm for work. Her name is Nina Spencer, and Nina is the president of Nina Spencer and Associates. She's also a conference keynoter and a business workshop presenter, and she's also the author of a book called Getting Passion Out of Your Profession. Nina, welcome to the show.
My pleasure to be here. Thanks.
One of the things that I really liked and found interesting when I read your book is you said when you go to a cocktail party, for instance, rather than asking the guests, what do you do for a living? Because that's what everyone asks.
Yes.
You suggest instead asking, what would you do if you won the lottery?
Yes.
And you said most people will say, well, first of all, I'd quit my job.
Yes, yes, indeed. As a matter of fact, that's an interesting experiment to do for your viewers. Next time you're at anything, it's the spring, so perhaps for a barbecue or wherever you are, just ask that question of your friends next time you get together for a coffee, and you'll find that most people will say, I would quit my job.
Well, what's with that? Why do so many people have jobs that they don't like? You know, maybe once upon a time it made them excited to get up in the morning, and now they're thinking, I can't stand it. Why are so many people stuck?
Perhaps there's a little bit of an autopilot that happens for some people, especially as we start to get obligations of family, of mortgage, of possessions, and so on, and start to feel the pressures of keeping up that lifestyle. People forget that they have options. Oftentimes you'll find that people, especially if they've been in any position for a long time, will feel that nobody else would want them. If I lost this job, who else would want me? Who else would hire me? Because they've been here for so long. So oftentimes people will find that, you know, I really used to love this job, but, you know, now I do it out of habit. So perhaps it would be interesting to see what would happen if you loved your job once again. You loved it in the beginning. What happened along the way? Sometimes it's stress. Sometimes it's the people that you have to interface with. Sometimes it's the external clients. There's all kinds of things that can get in the way of your initial and your original love of the job, but there are ways to get back to it, and that's what I talk about in Getting Passion.
Yes, you talk about specifically 8 passion points.
I do.
In order to rekindle that enthusiasm.
Yes.
And one of those is to maintain your sense of humor.
Yes, indeed.
So how do you do that in the workplace?
Well, it helps if you have an employer who is supportive of humor, tasteful, appropriate, and timely. It needs to be tasteful, because sometimes some people's sense of humor is in poor taste. So one needs to be conscious and thoughtful of tasteful, appropriate, and timely. It cannot be at a time where there was a crisis. It needs to be in an appropriate time. Tasteful and appropriate and timely humor sponsored by an employer or a level of management that encourages it. The old expression, you can't make them into something you are not. So if you are in a leadership position, if you are in a management position, oftentimes people just need a little bit of permission to know that it's okay to fold in tasteful and appropriate humor in the workplace. Things can be small ways to create humor, or they could be big events that an employer decides to sponsor once a year, a big staff off-site training and development event, or a planning session, or as simple as bringing in treats on a Friday morning, sharing a funny clip at the Monday afternoon meetings, comics, those sorts of things. People like to share the Dilberts, whatever.
I think that's what's missing a lot of times. Workplaces can be so serious, and even I think serious organizations need to have just that moment where you can lighten up. Another question I had for you has to do with energy. You said maintain your enthusiasm and energy. How do you do that if you are working with sort of energy vampires or negative people? So if you're saying, okay, I want to learn to love my job once again, but everyone around me is being a downer, how do you cope with that?
Well, first of all, it comes down to some self-talk. Make sure you understand clearly the reason why you are doing this job. What is my purpose? Why am I here? I really could go and work somewhere else. So get clear about why you stay, and then fortify yourself with that knowledge, with that wisdom. Make sure that you understand clearly why I stay in this job. Maybe it's because of the mortgage and the family or so on, or perhaps it's because of a deeper contribution, a love of the job itself. If you find that people are energy vampires, if they're sucking your energy, there's things that you can do for yourself as well. On the physical, make sure you get a proper night's sleep. Eat properly. Sometimes our moodiness and our annoyance or our irritability with others has to do with the fact that, oh, I didn't eat breakfast today. I think I skipped lunch. Holy mac, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I don't think I've eaten anything at all. Any of us, even the best most patient people can lose their balance and their edge if they're not rested right, if they're not nourishing themselves.
Absolutely.
Spending off some of that stress energy some other way, so some exercise as well. All of these kinds of things can help to fortify your sense of humor, especially if you have to interface with difficult colleagues, dare I say that there are some, or the external clients.
Now you keep mentioning something. You say if, fortify yourself with why you took the job in the first place. So are you staying there because it's something that you're making a contribution to and you love, or are you staying there because of the mortgage? How do you know when it's time to leave, though? How do you know when it's time to stick it out, or is it better for you to then think, I'm going to find something else to do?
Well, as far as I am concerned, if I was sharing this advice with somebody who was asking, just like you are right now, it doesn't matter if you're staying because of the mortgage or you're staying because you purely and solely love the job. What matters most is that you're at peace with your decision about why you stay. Some people stay because I'm doing it for the mortgage, I'm doing it for the children, for all the extracurricular activities, so I can go down to Cabo San Lucas or to Europe or whatever it is. That's fine. So then be clear about it in those irritating moments at work. Be clear that this is why you do the job. If you do the job because you're coming from a more spiritual perspective, a more making a difference in the world, if you have that kind of a job or making a contribution, then go back to that when the irritations come up. And by the way, it's my opinion that any job that exists is a job that has, at some level, some sort of a spiritual connection, because every job exists to make a contribution for something and someone. And if it didn't, then in this day when employers are doing as much as they can with as little as they can, if your job wasn't worthy, if your job wasn't important, if it didn't make a contribution, you already wouldn't be there.
Right. We have to wrap up the presentation, or the interview rather, but one of the things that you talk about in your speaking engagements, your presentations and your book are the eight passion points. Of those 8, which do you consider to be the most important one to implement right away?
The positive word choice.
Okay.
Making sure that when it comes to things like, have I caught you at a bad time, that you're consciously aware of how to turn that around. Have I caught you at a good time? Instead of saying things like, you've misunderstood me, say instead, I need to say that again. I need to be more clear. So making sure that you are consciously aware of whether the words that you're communicating with others day in and day out are negative or positively focused.
Nina, thank you so much for joining us.
My
Very
pleasure.
valuable and great information. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
I'm Denise Marek. Our special in-studio guest has been Nina Spencer, and I'll be back again soon on Live at 5. Until then, keep well and live your life by design.